forth between our expertise and your expertise. So what I'm going to go through is the work we've been doing. And by the way, am I talking loud enough? Is this okay? Okay. And I think when we start focusing on this, they're going to turn down the lights. Nobody needs to see my face as much as they need to see this. And, you know, it would be great to have a really simple, straightforward presentation, but the needs of the town are relatively complicated, and the ways of needs are relatively complicated, so I'm going to try and make this as simple as possible. And then we can dialogue about this when I run through this. And I think in general, we're going to leave plenty of time for questions and comments. So I'm thinking unless there's like real, you know, somehow something's not coming through, to go through the presentation. And then we want to hear from you. If you have questions, if you have comments, and clearly we're going to show you a series of alternatives. We want your feedback on those. So the background is we've been working with the town for a while because, you know, Hopkinton's municipal facilities don't meet town needs. The town departments have grown. Buildings need to accommodate 120 people, when a number of years ago it was 60 or 70 people. You have properties that are underutilized, they're spread all over town. Many of the facilities are outdated. And on top of having facilities that don't meet current needs, there are new goals that the town has set that weren't discussed much 20 or 30 years ago. Affordable housing, open space, downtown revitalization, you know, that need to be considered comprehensively. So the idea of our work, this presentation and the meeting, is to look comprehensively at what the town needs and alternatives for meeting those needs. So we met last May, we did a very preliminary presentation, and we heard a bunch of different things. The town needs more affordable housing. And on the other hand, a lot of housing has been built that puts pressure on the schools. There's open space that needs to be preserved. Downtown needs revitalization. Downtown needs more parking. The current town hall, maybe that building, that site could be put to better use. The town needs community spaces. Call it a community center, a place that can bring people together. High density housing should be discouraged. Large capital expenditures are taxing people out of the town. So this is what we heard. These are not my opinions, these are documentation of what we heard at the last meeting, but that has certainly influenced us as we've moved forward. So we're going to start out by talking about municipal needs. We're going to talk about opportunities to reutilize 4 town-owned properties to meet those needs. We're going to talk about public-private partnerships to meet comprehensive town needs, you know, options for housing development. We're going to talk about open space preservation. Then we're going to get to an evaluation of the options that we're going to lay out, and we're going to ask for input on facility planning and priorities. So this is what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to recap what we've been doing for the past 6 or 7 months. So I don't expect anybody to necessarily be able to read this, but we spent a lot of time interviewing representatives of every town department, looked at the spaces they had now and asked them to anticipate the spaces that they would need in the future. And what we heard over and over is, we don't want to push too far. We understand they're limited funds, limited space, but to do our job, these are the kinds of things we needed. So we took like 20 or 30 pages of notes and distilled it down to these numbers. Ultimately, it's not about numbers, it's about square footages, it's about space. So for each department, we diagram what they have now and what we anticipate they're going to need in the future, so that we're planning for the 20th century, for the 21st century, for the mid-21st century, not the beginning of the 21st century or the end of the 20th century. So, and these colors, again, the color coding, we're not going to go into detail about this. The point is, there's a lot of homework that backs up the plans that you're going to see. So let's talk about these 4 sites. Here's the outline of Hopkinton. We have Town Hall, we have Center School, and I think you can see, the cursor just barely, but here's the Center School, here's Elmwood School, and here's the Fruit Street property. And interesting, we see this in every town. And the closer you get to the center of town, the smaller the parcels are as you move away. So Center School is just, a couple of blocks from Town Hall. Whoops. When we get up to Elmwood, it's a bigger parcel, but that's about 3/4 of a mile from the town center. Fruit Street, great big parcel, but boy, it's not walking distance from the town center anymore. It's pretty remote. So all of these sort of, are the background for making choices about how to use these sites. So here are close-ups. Here is Cedar Street, Main Street, and Town Hall. And maybe you shouldn't call it Town Hall, because they're going to throw out ideas for having it be something other than Town Hall, but we'll call it Town Hall because everybody knows where that is. Here's that same intersection. Here's Center School. Here's further away is Elmwood School. Here's Fruit Street. These are all at the same scale, so you can see the relative sizes of these parcels. So what can we do with those parcels to meet the town needs, which we summarized in that chart and in those diagrams? And then I want to throw out a kind of comprehensive view of what some opportunities are that should be taken into account, especially when it comes to Center School. So outlined in orange is the Center School, outlined in red is downtown business. Up in the upper right is the future International Marathon Center. And the thought is that this is part of a downtown revitalization district that would take some rezoning. But as we look at opportunities for Center School, this big picture vision of the future should be taken into account. And Dan's going to come up and talk a bit more about this, because has done a lot of legwork with others on what this could mean. So to sort of summarize and then move forward, we're going to go through each individual site, how it could be developed, then show you 5 scenarios for how those can work together comprehensively. And the starting point for that work will be, let's locate town services. That's the highest priority. We need places for town staff to work, and then look at what other opportunities are, because the town has more space than it needs, on sites and within buildings. And then we're going to look at preliminary analyses of zoning, financial considerations, and the 5 options we're going to show are, and I'm going to go through this really quickly because we're going to circle back, is town staff split between existing town hall and Center School, all town staff at an expanded town hall, move all town services to Center School, move all town services to Elmwood School, and in option D and E are similar, move town services to Elmwood School, except town hall remains a community center and meeting space. Okay, we're going to come back to this with more information about what this means. So throughout this presentation, color coding. Hope this makes it easier to understand rather than harder. Where you use green is town uses, and you'll see this green outline reoccurring. Selling for redevelopment through a request for proposal process. We're suggesting there are opportunities to sell town-owned properties because The town can't do commercial development, but a private developer could, and throw that out as an opportunity for using properties in the town's interest. You can also sell properties for housing development through an RFP process. And we hear there's concern about not having too much high-density housing, and we also hear the concern about the need for affordable housing. So there are pros and cons to housing development, but this is what we're here to discuss. And public open space, so green, red, blue, and orange. You'll see this color coding on the bottom. You probably can't read this. You probably can't tell the colors apart. The point of going into this detail is only to say, we've gone into this level of detail, and once we've sort of zeroed in a direction, we can circle back and develop this in more detail. So let's dig into these 4 different properties. So town hall could remain town hall within the existing buildings. We think it can accommodate all town hall uses except youth and family services and parks and recreation. And we've pulled those out because if those were relocated to someplace else, that's the beginnings of a community center. So let's pull those out and keep all the other town hall uses here. You'll note the town has bought a Walcott Street property where Parks and Rec are currently located that could be used as parking. We understand parking is a big issue, so this will at least partially alleviate that need. And then limited storage. This scheme doesn't solve a significant problem, which is there's not enough storage. So another way to use town hall is to keep youth and family services and parks and recreation in town hall. This is kind of the reverse of the last version because it's right near the center of town. That might be a great place to have them. And then other town uses would go to the other sites. There would be room for rental, for expansion. You know, that's what's shown in gray. And again, additional parking at Walcott Street. And there are other options for town hall. So again, not to get hung up, oh my gosh, there's so many options for town hall. You know, keep your eye on the big picture, which is, do you want town hall to be town hall, or is it better relocated elsewhere? That's the kind of big picture question. But town hall could be sold for redevelopment, it could be renovated as housing, school administration, which we haven't talked about much, could move into town hall. These are all options. So again, we'll come back to these when we look at the 5 options to comprehensively use the 4 town properties. So hopefully this is clear, and if it's not quite clear, it'll become clearer as we move on. You can also expand town hall. We said it wasn't big enough for all those different uses. You could expand town hall and keep everything there. It's a tight fit. You lose parking. It makes the parking problem with town hall even worse. There's Walcott parking there. But if you said, hey, let's get all those town services at the current town hall building, could we expand it to meet those needs? At least in theory, that's a possibility. And a lot of this is conceptual. So a lot of this needs to be verified, but at least a first pass suggests that it's possible. So Center School, a couple blocks away. We'll look at different options for that. So one option is, and the starting point is keeping the 1928 school that's out in front. People seem to be very attached to it. I think there are people, get rid of it if we need to, but enough people have said, let's keep that building, that everything we show you keeps the building up front. We're saying, hard to use for town uses, but turn it over to a developer. Maybe it's a boutique hotel that's up front, plans at the bottom. Behind it, it says new building outlined in green. That's new youth and family services, parks and recreation, and pre-kindergarten could be in a new building. This is turning. There are playing fields behind it, there's new parking, and down here, outlined in blue, is new housing. And again, is this too close to the abutters? There's lots of ledge there. At least in theory, this is feasible. So this is limited town uses. It's really call it a community center because it's youth and family services, parks and recreation. And that's one option for Center School. And this, by the way, tears down everything behind the 1928 building because we feel, based on our experience, it clogs up the site, it's poorly positioned, and by the time you update it to meet contemporary standards, there's nothing left of value, and it costs more money to renovate it. We don't know that 100% for sure, but we've run into this before, and that's kind of our assessment. So we could tear down Center School behind the 1928 building, and we could use it all for town uses. We have all town services plus pre-K would fit in a new building that takes up a lot of the site. And Dan, further on, he's going to talk about financial considerations. So we're not oblivious to the fact that this costs a lot of money. What we're really talking about are planning for the decades ahead. So that issue will be addressed, but a bit later in the presentation. So there's a new building, town uses. Behind there's a playing field that conceivably could be a future pre-K, which is now at the Marathon School, and a bunch of parking. And down here and in back, retain land for open space, new municipal parking. At the last meeting, there's a very eloquent statement about spring, summer, fall, and winter. Open space supports the natural environment, and it provides wonderful assets to the citizens of Hopkinton. So addressing the need for open space is something we're definitely keeping in mind. And here's another option for Center School, which is part of the bigger picture. I talked about the Marathon Center downtown revitalization, and I'm not going to talk a lot about this because Dan is going to talk about this into more detail. But this includes new development from a developer. It maintains the 1928 building. There's small scale housing. This is all smaller scale than what we've shown in the previous images, and open space. And this would require rezoning, probably as part of a comprehensive plan for downtown revitalization. Moving on, Elmwood School. So it's a big school, and it's a school, but our understanding is it's reasonably likely in a number of years, this depends on the vote and the allocation of money, that Elmwood School will be empty in, let's say, 4 or 5 years. So what happens with that? And it's going to take time moving all the municipal needs to a new building or a renovated building. That's not going to happen right away because the money isn't there. So 4 or 5 years out, we're talking 5, 10, 15 years into the future. So you could, in Elmwood School, you can fit all town facilities in an integrated pre-K building, and you could have long-term storage and a facilities department. So Elmwood School would meet virtually all of the municipal needs. The cost associated with this, is this the right place to move? Town needs, this is what we want to hear from you on. But all of this colored stuff, again, I'm not going to get into detail on all of these colors, but we've done a pretty comprehensive evaluation of the building, town needs, and we think Elmwood School could meet them. Another option is to not relocate all town services there, and maybe Elmwood School remains a school. We'll see about the vote and the costs. Or the town could keep it for various town uses. It could be rented out to nonprofits. You don't see, all you have is green. That means some sort of town use. but not municipal services, which would be at Center School, or it would be at town hall. You can also demo the school. Some towns do this. We don't want to maintain that building. We hear that no one is going to reuse that building. Let's just tear it down and say for reuse playing fields. And you could rezone. You could sell this for housing. It could, we did a study, you could fit a whole bunch of, let's say, affordable housing apartments in here. Whether it's cost effective or not, we don't know. We haven't shown the fully developed plans, but that's another option if the consensus is Elmwood should not be used for municipal services. And then Fruit Street, big site. So you can see here an area has been allocated for affordable housing. Might be a great place for affordable housing. It's pretty far from downtown. It makes it hard for someone without a car to utilize municipal services, to work downtown. But Fruit Street's pretty big. Maybe it's a good place for affordable housing. It's a place you could put a gymnasium. It's teeny tiny. This rectangle, your gym, you can barely see it here because it's so teeny tiny, but you have a gym next to the playing fields and you get bathrooms and a few other facilities. And over on the left, near where the existing storage building is, which is really for machinery, you could have a new building that was town storage. So all town departments need easily accessible storage. They also have long-term storage, and increasingly the town is digitizing its storage, but state regulations require that hard copies be left of a lot of records, and they're historical documents. So no matter how far the digitalization takes, it's anticipated that storage will be necessary. So we had long discussions about the town's needs for storage. We haven't dug into them in this presentation because we don't want to dig into the weeds, but the town does need storage space both for equipment and records that need to be climate controlled. So these are the 4 sites and different ways to use them. So, and I'm sorry, another option is just to have a new storage building, and another option is affordable housing when the time comes and no additional town services are built out there. Maybe it's too far from the town center, maybe there are better locations. So these are all options. So, what you see here, we're going to show you options A, B, C, D, and E. In each one of these options, town hall's in the upper left, Center School is in the upper right, lower left is Elmwood School, and lower right is Fruit Street. Whoops. So you have seen each one of these pages before. So what this is, option A is a specific mix and match for how town needs are going to meet with this comprehensive view of all 4 buildings, all 4 sites. So option A is town hall services are at town hall, as we talked about. So town hall except for youth and family services. At Center School, there's a new building that's youth and family services, and conceivably a pre-K in a new building. So call it a community center at Center School. Not town services, they're back at Town Hall, but a community center. And then the building, the 1928 building facing the Common, request for proposals for redevelopment as ideally commercial, retail, restaurant, boutique hotel. And as you remember, in back there's open space. Elmwood School is not municipal services, and it remains a school, overflow uses, demo the school, tear it down. Elmwood School in option A is not part of the mix. And then Fruit Street has a new gymnasium and new storage. So up at the top, option A, town hall services split between town hall and center school. So this is the thing to remember, and we are going to come back to this again so you don't have to take notes. But this is option A. This is the big picture. I'm not going to go through these, but we've looked at the pluses and minuses. So after I go through the 5 options, I'm going to turn it back to Dan, who's going to be a sort of synopsis of the pluses and minuses of each option. Because I'm going to turn this over to Dan, because as I said, my firm is the expert in planning and design. When we get to the pluses and minuses, we really need the experts on Hopkinton, which is Dan and his crew, and you, everybody else here, except for me and Dagny. Option B, all town services and expanded town hall. So you can see, you've seen this before. You take care of all of the offices. Center school gets reutilized not for town services, but it gets redeveloped as part of this comprehensive rezoning downtown revitalization plan with open space. Elmwood School, again, remains a school, remains various town uses, demo, and then we do have a new gym and storage at Fruit Street. Because Town Hall, we think, can accommodate all the town uses, but we still need storage, and there isn't room for a gymnasium on that site. So here are the pluses and minuses. We'll come back to these. So option C, new municipal building for all services at Center School. So you see here, upper left, Town Hall, maybe it's school administration, maybe it's sold for redevelopment, maybe it's renovated as housing. It's not municipal houses, it's no longer town hall. You could call it Old Town Hall. My understanding, it was like a theater before it was a town hall. So could rename the building. Center School is new municipal building for all town services. You see a gymnasium there, and this includes, we haven't colored this green, we probably should have, the 1928 building is part of the mix for accommodating all town services. Elmwood School is not town services, and it has, as we've talked about, the variety of other uses for Elmwood School. And then Fruit Street has new storage. We don't need a gym there because the gym is at Center School. That's option C, new municipal building for all services at Center School. And we're talking about focusing on municipal services where they're located, because we talked about it at the beginning. That's the #1 priority. And then whatever is not used for municipal services, looking at for alternative uses. Pluses and minuses. Option D, relocate town hall services to Elmwood School. So municipal center for all town facilities, integrated pre-K will fit at Elmwood, as we talked about. There's a gymnasium there. Every service the town provides is at Elmwood School. Town hall, it gets sold, it's housing, school administration, it's not municipal services. Center School, no municipal services. It's part of the revitalization and through the public-private partnership. It's private redevelopment in the public interest. So that's option D. And then pluses and minuses, and option E is similar, but relocate town hall services to, let me just, Elmwood School. Yeah, so it's very similar, except for I'm sorry. Town hall. Relocate town hall services to Elmwood School, but there remain some town hall uses at town hall. So that's the different youth and family services, park and recreation. So it's kind of split between town hall services at Elmwood School and some at town hall. So those are the alternatives and the mixes and matches of different ones. Option E, pluses and minuses. And I'm going to turn this over to Dan, because he's going to circle back through all of this with some preliminary evaluations of what works and doesn't work for each one. Thank you, David.
So, quick summary of the 5 options. Options A and B, where we reuse the existing town hall. We think that would meet the current needs of the town staff, but we don't think it's a real good long-term solution. Departments will continue to grow. We don't have the storage there. Parking is still going to be an issue. And in option B, we may even worsen the parking problem when we put an addition off the back of town hall. And then both of these options, if we were to proceed with these, would need to find a home for our town departments while all this work is going on. Options C, D, and E, and again, the only difference between options D and E, they both involve moving town hall to Elmwood School. The only difference is, in one of these options, we keep the existing town hall and turn it into a community meeting space, so we have that amenity in the downtown area rather than down at Elmwood. So D and E are pretty similar. And both of these options, building a new town hall at Center School, building a new town hall down at Elmwood, are very viable. They're a big improvement for the town staff in terms of office space, storage, parking, big improvement for townspeople to come visit town hall and interact with staff. So all 3 of these we think are very viable options. The big differences between them is option C, where we build a new town hall at Center School. We think that is going to be a more expensive option. That's going to involve demolition of the 1950 and 1980 additions. It's going to involve new construction, and it's going to involve historic preservation of the 1928 building. Whereas Elmwood, we think we can do a renovation of that at a less cost than doing that at Center School. The other big difference is how these options affect the downtown revitalization, which is a goal of the town and a vision of the town. Under option C, where we build a new town hall at Center School, we essentially gain a parking lot next to the common, which would be useful. That's one of our master plan goals, is to gain more downtown parking. But beyond that, it doesn't do much. Options D and E, where we have free reign at Center School, we could do much more there to help downtown revitalization. And it all starts with zoning. So I'd like to take you through a little bit of what can happen at Center School. We can all imagine option C, where we build a new town hall, what that might look like. That property's been a municipal facility for almost 100 years. So a new town hall isn't a big stretch. But changing the use to something else is a big change. Change can sometimes make people uneasy. It certainly does me. So we thought it important to go through what it possibly could happen there to help us make our decisions on what options we might want to move forward with. And again, it all starts with zoning. Many people think zoning is a way to control development, but really zoning is a way for the town to envision what they want in each area of town. Whether they want housing, they want industrial. So zoning is really a vision for the town. Down in Elmwood, we've got about 19 acres. The zoning is split between Residence A and agricultural, which is essentially single-family homes. If we put the municipal uses there, no changes needed because municipal uses are exempt. And I just want to note out that the planning board is still looking at Elmwood School as a potential overlay district for the MBTA zoning, for that high density zoning. So that's still in play at Elmwood. The existing town hall is zoned downtown business. Any of the uses that we discussed tonight would be an allowed use or used by special permit. So for the town hall property, we really don't need to do much on zoning there. Center School is zoned Residence A. That's where the big change is going to happen. If we want to enact the town's vision, we're going to have to do something with zoning at the Center School. This way we might want to shut the lights off. I can see that a little bit, but is Main Street coming through here, Town Common here. The bulk of this area is downtown business. As we head east toward the Common, switches to Residence A. Center School property right here is within the Residence A zone. There's a couple of properties here, 1 Ash, 2 Hayden Row, that are in the Residence A that have historically been used for commercial uses. 1 Ash is an office building, 2 Hayden Row is kind of it's got some offices in there, got some rental units in there. So those are 2 properties that are in the Residence A zone that are being used for non-residential purposes. So one thing we could do is just take the downtown business zone and plop it on the Center School. But I don't think that's very creative. And I don't think we want those broad uses at Center School. We don't need another gas station or a chain store down at Center School. So we went back to the vision statement of the town to get some inspiration. So 10 years ago, we made ourselves a goal to make the downtown more vibrant. We wanted to be a vibrant hub with small shops, pedestrian friendly, some commercial activity, attractive streetscapes, and we want to focus on culture and arts. So this is some of our inspiration that we want to encompass at Center School. Now some of this has been happening, but there's always room for improvement. Likewise, the town's master plan goes along those same lines. So it's encouraging public-private partnership, more downtown parking, and we want to emphasize and encourage historic preservation. Now you've seen this slide before. As we zoom out, you can see Town Common here, Center School property, the downtown proper here, International Marathon Center out there. That's a big deal, really. That's going to attract a lot of people to the town, and a lot of people are going to want to come up here and support our businesses and spend money in town. So given the size of Center School, 6 acres on the front, 5 acres in the back, and its unique location, we think it deserves a unique zoning district and not just copy something that we already have. And I'm suggesting that the front portion, the 6 acres, be rezoned to this new yet to be named zoning district. The rear portion would be held as open space. A need eloquently mentioned by Beth Kelly at the last meeting. And then there's also potential to add 1 Ash and 2 Hayden Row to get those existing commercial properties kind of into the proper zone. So this zone, I think, would be emphasize historic preservation. This property that we're in tonight was a historic restoration, and now it's a thriving enterprise. So historic preservation and commercial uses are very compatible. In accordance with the master plan and vision statement, we want to concentrate on small shops. We have a lot of creative people in town of Hopkinton. Art-related uses could be a winner in the downtown. I think architectural design standards are very important. We'd want to work with the zoning advisory committee, design review committee, and come up with some architectural standards for what kind of buildings would look like at Center School. If we look at that side of the common right now, we've got Beth Kelly's house, early 1800s, One Ash, and on the other side of Center School, the Pavlovs, late 1800s. The Center School, 1928 building, kind of a relative youngster. And by itself, not a very attractive building. But if you take it in the whole, just those four properties spans 100 years of Hopkinton history. And I think that's important to preserve and encourage in whatever we do at Center School. And with respect to housing, we heard the message, low density and possibly age restricted because of the impacts on the schools. So those are the kind of things that we want to emphasize with this new zoning district. We put together a list of potential uses that might happen in this district. As you can see, uses by right, small shops, arts-related things. I think those all could be very successful in this district. Office space, daycares, that type of thing. And here's 85 Main Street, another successful historic preservation that turned into commercial use. So it's very possible to do this. With respect to housing, we think maybe we should do that by special permit for a couple of reasons. One way to control our density. And the second reason is to try to avoid what happened at Legacy Farms, where the commercial aspect of that property fell by the wayside in favor of housing. So we want to concentrate to make sure we get commercial uses there, and housing is kind of a secondary use. The idea of a boutique hotel has been bounced around for a number of years now. It may be the time to do that. Again, with the Marathon Center coming to town, that's going to attract a lot of people that might want to spend a night in Hopkinton overlooking the starting line. This building here, Kelly Grill, attracts some top talent into this theater. And they draw visitors from all over the state and other states. There's 30,000 people that come through this building every year, which is amazing to me. But some of the people that come to see these shows, they might want to spend a night in Hopkinton. And finally, over on South Street, we've got some good businesses over there. We've got Dell EMC, we've got a number of biotech industries. Executives are flying in all the time to have meetings. After a long day of meetings, they may want to just stay in Hopkinton for a night rather than driving back to Boston or staying in at the Holiday Inn Express over at Milford. So I think a boutique hotel should at least have some consideration here. So I'm kind of a visual person. You saw this earlier. This is one idea of what could happen in the Center School. Over in here, well, just to orientate you, this is Ash Street here, One Ash here, Beth Kelly's house, the Pavlovs, the Stoddards back here, and then as we go further back, Prestwick Drive back here. In one area, we could have some low-density housing, shown here in blue. The green would be kind of the commercial activity, restore Center School, possibly put a little addition on here. This could be a hotel, restaurants. In the middle, we've got another small commercial building, perhaps a little coffee shop, We've got a courtyard here with some outdoor dining. And then further back, another commercial building where we could have some small shops, art space, and the like back there. In the back, we think that should be dedicated open space. Probably a trailhead parking here to connect into the trail that are already exist and going to be expanded. A central parking lot here with good pedestrian access right up to the common. That could be a big amenity for when we have events at the common. The poly arts, concerts on the common, movie nights, all could benefit from parking back in here. So again, that's just one idea of what could happen at Center School. But I'd like to wrap it up now. I got to bring us back to reality here. And that's finances. We can turn on the lights now. So I'm sure you're all aware of the school. We've got a big vote coming up and the impact of that on our taxes. So in our work, we know no one has an appetite for more taxes for other capital projects like a new town hall. We understand that. And that's in the back of our mind as we go through all this. So we need to manage our assets in a way that can keep our capital costs down and find a way to increase our revenues. And I think moving Town Hall to Elmwood is certainly one way to do that. Renovating Elmwood certainly is going to have a cost. It's not inexpensive, but I think we have the ability to move in there with moderate expenditures on the revenues, on the renovations, system upgrades, cosmetics, that type of thing. And major renovations could be planned down the road after we get some of our current debt paid off. Property tax impacts, we've got to be aware of that as well. Development of Center School, Town Hall can generate tax revenue, where right now no tax revenue is coming out of those properties. Age-restricted housing, that'll generate property taxes and hopefully no impacts on the schools. Use of Elmwood for a new town hall will have no impact on taxes at all. It's going from one municipal use to a second municipal use. And I just want to make a plug for this fourth bullet down. This is another idea that's been kicked around lately, I think most recently in the growth study report. But it relates to taxes and historic preservation. I think we really need to find a way to have local tax credits so people can maintain and upgrade their historic buildings rather than let them go and then eventually we're going to have to demolish them. So that's kind of unrelated to our topic, but I just wanted to bring that up while we're talking finances. And finally, income generation to offset the costs. If we sold Center School for private development, as we discussed, and perhaps the existing town hall, that would offer the town with a one-time cash infusion. Now, I don't think we can earmark that for any one use, but it would bring in some money. Likewise, Elmwood, even if we built a new town hall down in Elmwood, that 19 acres is large enough to subdivide and sell off for some housing. Another income generator for both property taxes and capital improvements. So I think with that, I think we've talked enough, and I'd like to try to hear comments and questions from the audience if you have any.
I have one, yes.
Sure.
Sean Pablo, 15 Ash Street. So in option C, the current town hall will be sold off and redeveloped for downtown revitalization?
Yes. Option C is all town services go to Center School, which leaves town hall empty. It could be sold off for private uses. I think one of the options was to grant it to the housing authority to do housing there. I think that was a big options for that one, yeah. Got the other questions? Yes?
Was the property on South Street considered at any point purchasing, leasing for, I mean, when I think about Town Hall, it's essentially Class A office space is what they need to operate. That's what it appears to me. So, you know, there's plenty of Class A office space vacant on South Street. Seems like it's just a simple lease or transaction. I mean, we currently spend $110,000 a year across the street to rent the superintendent's office. I mean, consolidate it all into Dell EMC, former Dell EMC office, lease it, give them a 20-year deal.
Well, I guess that we looked at leasing of it, but we did realize that that property was for sale, and we did look at it. Unfortunately, the town is different than a private entity. We just can't just go out and buy property. We have to go through a pretty intensive property to prove that we need the land. Then we got to go through an RFP process to get landowners to put bids in for the property. So it's a complicated process for us to buy land, but we did look at that, and we thought that would have been a home run to move Town Hall over there. But we didn't buy it. But leasing, I think leasing can still be an option on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's something that we should look at.
Unless anybody else has a question. Sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
Ryan Johnson, 20 Brookdale. I know there's something before the town this month that I haven't quite understood yet about the property next to Town Hall that's been built. Something about land use or acquisition. Do you know what that is and how it could potentially relate or not relate to this?
I don't, but there's somebody in the room that does.
Yeah,
Can you explain that article that's coming up at town meeting?
yeah, the concept is to perhaps buy a portion of at least 2 parcels that are owned by Bill's Pizza for the purposes of building a parking lot for both town hall and the public.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
A couple of the proposals included gymnasiums. I didn't know there was a need for gymnasium space at the time. In fact, the 2 schools that we're talking about eliminating, Elmwood and Center, both had gymnasiums, so can't be that hard up for gymnasium space. I did concur with this gentleman's comments about South Street. It seemed like Town Hall seemed to function very well in a first-class office space when it was on South Street. And I would encourage the town to look into negotiations and whether that's a possibility or not. I'm concerned about infrastructure. While you mentioned all the back space at Center School, when Center School was a school and was in operation, there was hardly enough space for the teachers to park, and we had teachers that would walk in the afternoon in the dark up Ash Street on both sides without sidewalks. So, and I'm not convinced that, in fact, we had the same space at Elmwood either, in terms of parking. So there is some infrastructure that's needed. We haven't talked about traffic, we haven't talked about sewer needs and water needs and the impact of all of these options on that.
Sure. That was a lot. I mean,
I've been holding it up for 20 years.
South Street, you know, you're absolutely right. When the town hall was up at 80 South Street, that was great. And when we interviewed town hall staff, I think they all said they'd like to go back there. They really liked it up there because it gave them the space. Townspeople could go in and interact with them. it was really good. And that's what we hope to recreate if we did Elmwood or a new town hall at Center School, to recreate that. What was your other question about infrastructure?
No, are you convinced that there's enough parking spaces available for all of these options?
Not all of the options. Options A and B, we don't think there's enough parking. Options C, D, and E, I think there certainly would be. The parking that's up at Center School right now, you can't compare that to a complete redevelopment of the Center School property, so parking would increase. And the same thing at Elmwood School.
Is the utility easement for high power behind Elmwood a possibility to use any of that land for either on-grade parking or temporary building use, or is that strictly off limits?
No, it's actually not an easement. Eversource actually owns that strip of property between our two parcels.
Does Eversource owe us some money?
$5.7 million.
That just close that deal.
You want to
But-
negotiate? Norman's right here. He can make that deal happen.
But it is just a narrow strip. At most, we'd want, trail and parking access across that. And we did look at the deeds when we bought that property, and there is a right to pass and repass across that property way back when. Yes?
Is there anywhere in the vision for the town the idea of an indoor swimming pool for use of all the residents and the students?
Hasn't come up, no. No.
I feel like that's a big negative for Hopkinton.
Okay.
It'd be interesting.
Can we fit a swimming pool at Center School?
What's that?
Can we fit a swimming pool at Center School?
Can we fix it?
Oh, fit one. That's the first we've heard of that need, so, I don't know. Yes?
Diane McCauley, 52 West Elms. I am also wondering about how all of the traffic for these, potential new businesses in the Marathon Center will be handled, and whether there is any consideration for additional ways to get through the town, which even after the recent changes, we basically have one lane in each direction, and just the current traffic still backs up considerably during, I wouldn't even say during rush hour, it seems to be from 3 o'clock on. You can sit in traffic for quite a while. So what is the thinking around perhaps expanding the ability to traverse Hopkinton with all these changes, potential changes?
Well, we haven't got into that at all on traffic. Traffic is an issue now. It's going to be an issue later. The downtown improvements, I think, were really intended to kind of slow the traffic down so people aren't speeding through town. It's kind of a traffic calming to have the kind of the more narrow lanes. So that's what some people consider an improvement. But either way, you're going to have traffic. Whether we build a town hall at Center School, you've got traffic coming in there, with a kindergarten back there. That's 120 parents dropping off their kids every morning, picking them up every afternoon, right during the rush hour time. You got the employees going there right during the rush hour time. So no matter what we do there, we're going to have traffic issues that need to be somehow addressed. Yes?
Yeah, Kelly, 5 Ash Street. I live next to Center School. I've lived there for 50 years. One of the things that has recently arisen in Hopkinton is the discussion of downtown green space. And at the present time, Center School does have some green space that is used by young families and even older people in the winter trying out their cross-country skis, what have you. And first of all, I think that if we're going to revitalize downtown, now we have sidewalks and people are walking. But what are they going to walk to? A parking lot behind Center School? No, I think Center School should be where we have a park, where we have green space. Unfortunately, we're turning our downtown into what's called a heat island. So much parking is being created. Now we have bicycle lanes. We have so much asphalt downtown, dying trees on the town common. There is no cool place in the summer for people to go. They have concerts on the common, and they have to all shelter under the trees that are still alive. So I think if we're talking about revitalizing downtown, we also have to think of green space. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Arlene Casassa. I have always worked in the district as a teacher and street pathologist, and I loved the position and location of Elmwood and the way that it's set up as classrooms for younger children. I see it as a positive to not give it to the town for their offices because it could always be used for the influx of students that we're getting into the district that have no English-speaking skills in their families, as an area for them to come in and have classes set up for ESL or for those kind of services that are not within the school day, because a lot of people work and can't come during that time. So it can be for adults. I see that as an area of need that we don't address within the school community. So English as another language, learning English, becoming, just classes, just various classes around that whole communication piece are so needed that I don't think we could avoid it from the school community could avoid it. And those are just classrooms that are really nicely set up, and it's just a nice environment to a welcoming environment. Every time you go into that school, it is that kind of a small town feel to the school. It was designed to be like that. And so you can even use that as pre-K, just pre-K English-speaking classes or whatever. There will always be a need for classes that could be offset from all that center that's going on up there, building of schools and adding on the center of town, because that's going to become it's going to continue to grow up there. So I have a hard time giving up Elmwood as a school-based community.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and I think the option where we move to Elmwood, Elmwood's a big school. It's almost 60,000 square feet. We don't need anywhere near that for town staff. And pre-K programs fit in there nicely, and I'm sure there'd be space for ESL programs in there as well. I think it could all work. Yeah, out in the back.
Hey, Bob Davidsky, 15 Parker Point. Magnificent job with what your committee has put together. John and I were on a similar committee sponsored by the town to evaluate what the best interest of Center School was maybe 5 years ago. A couple public hearings, a number of votes, and our commission through Rick Flannery suggested that the townspeople believed that Center School should stay the way it is, utilize the front of the building, eradicate the middle of the building, use the gym for a town community center, and I see your plan incorporates some of that. But as far as the additional space used for other uses, I don't think that 3, 4, 5 years ago that's what the town wanted.
No,
just a little insight to the past history.
No, we're very familiar with the Center School Reuse Report. We've referenced it a lot during our planning here, and I think one of the options is probably close to that. Maybe option B or C is close to that vision of the Center School Reuse Committee. But our scope is kind of expanded over time as well. We were originally just looking at Center School. Now, with the potential Elmwood move, the select board asked us to look at Elmwood as well. And then we figured, well, let's wrap in Fruit Street and Town Hall and try to do a comprehensive planning of all the town needs for the long range. So that's what we're attempting to do.
As I started off, you guys have done a wonderful job. It's a elaborate task to see what you put together. I'm not sure if additional housing downtown, whether it's affordable or 55 plus, really is the best use for that space, given what Beth and some of the other people have said.
Right. And we heard that as well.
Good.
You had another question?
Yes, I do. I don't know if, or I guess I'm wondering if part of the consideration in this revitalization and the work that you're doing has any view of the existing businesses in town, because we do have a number that are vacant these days, and I think you mentioned some type of tax credit, which I think might have been, or I interpreted as being directed at homeowners, but I'm wondering if there is any thought to tax credits to the existing businesses to like improve the facade of the buildings in the, around the, the 85 and Main Street.
Yeah, if the town gets serious about, a historic tax credit, it would really be for the property owners to upkeep their buildings. So yeah, it would be both residential and business. Whoever might be in that historic district, or if the town decided to do a tax overlay district of older sections of town, that could certainly work as well. But it would be directed at both. Yes.
If I may. We are also looking into a grant opportunity. We're looking into a grant opportunity that will provide, if we're successful, funding for storefront improvements.
That's great. No, thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Brooks Farrar. I'm a local business owner in town and vice president of the Chamber of Commerce here in town as well. We talked with the Permanent Building Committee months ago, back in June, and you guys presented these options to us and came to us to come to you with some suggestions as well. And we went out to our 120 plus business owners, so we got a lot of voices and opinions on your options here. Thank you again, echoing all the hard work that you guys have done. Well done. To us, D&E make total sense, right? I mean, the business development and the going back to the vision statement and the master plan and seeing the revitalization of the downtown with some local shops and more tax credits like we're talking about too, offsetting some of these tax implications make total sense. And the sidewalks and the pedestrian friendliness that we're creating here now with this downtown corridor project, it's fantastic, but what are we going to? And this center school property is certainly a gem, and it overlooks the town common there. I mean, it's fantastic. Why not take advantage of that and draw people to it with some kind of attractive commercial mixed use, like you're suggesting? There are a lot of good suggestions in there. So we're, as a chamber, in full support of D&E there, and I'll leave it at that. That was, well done again, guys, and thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
So, yeah, just looking at the revenue mix, 81% of the revenue in the town comes from property taxes, and it's probably going up sooner. I mean, well, depending upon what happens with the vote, it's going to go up dramatically, but just in terms of thinking about businesses that, having fewer businesses in town now in 3 years than we do now, for example, more and more is going to be put on the homeowner. So my question is really about focus, and I guess I should say my recommendation is about focus. Like anything that we decide to do should really be focused on commercial expansion and things that bring non-school members, or that don't bring kids to town but bring people and money to town. And so the focus is on D&E, the focus on the International Marathon Center, which I think is I think should be the anchor, I think are really good, and I'm supportive of that. The question that I have though is the art community angle. I'm a huge fan of the arts, huge fan of the HTA, but when I think about what Hopkinton is known for, we spent 100 years building the brand that we are the town where the marathon starts. So we are known as that. And what I saw in your presentation is that, you know, you want to create a new zone that basically makes Hopkinton known as an arts community. And I think that takes a lot of time and effort and money to try to teach the world that this is a place where you come for the arts. And I mean, Kelly is doing a great job at that. You mentioned 30,000 people, but the reality is that if you ask 100 people, most people will say, oh, I know Hopkinton because that's where the marathon starts, not because that's where the arts are, right? So I guess why the focus on, you know, changing the perception that we're an arts town as opposed to just doubling down on the fact that everybody knows us for the marathon and then tripling down on investing in the IMC and things that drive people to town for what we're already known for.
Sure, those are good points. And we're not focusing completely on the arts, but we want to have the arts part of the inclusion in what we do. Because we do have a very creative community in town. We're not focused solely on the arts. And we had this argument in our deliberations as well. You know, we don't want to be known solely for arts. We want to be known for, you know, a broad spectrum of things. And you're right, the International Marathon Center is going to be a big deal. And we need to take advantage of that. But at the same time, we look back to the master plan and our vision statement, and they focus, you know, on culture and arts. So that's important to us as well. I mean, a lot of people spend a lot of time preparing master plans and vision statements. And in most towns, they just collect dust. I think we should actually use those. There's a lot of good information in them. And arts-related businesses and shops, I think, could attract here, but not solely that.
So on Friday, just a quick follow-up. So on Friday, the city of San Francisco announced that their new slogan is, "It all starts here." That's their new slogan. And they're using it in a term of, you know, the technology and the innovation and things like that. But when I read that in the New York Times, I thought, wait a minute, don't we own that? Isn't that our slogan? And I was going to write Norman an email and say, hey man, it's time to get our lawyers out and taking a look at that. Because the reality is we have been using that since at least, somebody who's lived here longer than me can tell me when that sign went up, but it was here before the 90s.
About 1980, about 1981.
1981, that's called first use. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things I think like everybody knows. It all starts here.
Yep.
Not San Francisco. It all starts here. that's, I think, what we, for me, that's where we start to, build the halo effect and attract other businesses that want to support that, what we're
Sure, sure. And to make any of this work, we just can't rezone something and sit back and hope that people flock to Hopkinton. We're going to have to go out and actively market whatever we want to do, and that's going to be part of that. And we have, we got Julie Chung involved now, and she's in town hall. She can help us do that. But right now we're at the stage of kind of solidifying our plans on what we all want to see as a vision for the downtown, and then we can go out and start marketing it. Let me grab Kelly first.
So I just want to respond to Peter's question, or Peter's comment about, I didn't take what you were saying as you were looking to refocus it on the arts, but to understand that the arts is actually an economic engine. Forbes magazine just came out with an article that talked about the creative economy and what happens. And what happens is an organization like ours, as Dan mentioned, is bringing visitors. The International Marathon Museum as well will bring visitors. And a big part of what the museum is doing is a museum. And what happens is people come to visit an arts organization, and then, especially if they're coming from out of town, they're getting gas, they're going to the drugstore. And so right now, we've actually, in our little organization here at 30,000 visitors, have been able to calculate that we're bringing in about $500,000 worth of income to other businesses in town. So that's what it means, I think, when you're looking to shift to concentrating on an arts district or an arts, it's to allow for those businesses to come in that's actually going to help the other businesses prosper.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah.
Peter, and this is exactly what the committee is looking for. We're looking for an opportunity to start this kind of dialogue to occur in town. And also, by the way, the reference to the arts district isn't the first time, or this is not the committee that has initiated this. There are other entities in town that have raised this topic. But be that as it may, we were looking for a starting point to start this and generate this quality conversation. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, could you please restate where the district is that you mentioned earlier? You, in one of the slides, one gentleman, maybe it was the prior gentleman, who was talking about the district, the Marathon Center, you know, rather than just downtown, if you will, it kind of outlined a larger area. And I'm just trying to recall where that was. Was that around, say, 85 east, or was that further, did it go further towards 495?
Do you want me to speak to that, or?
I think, yeah, the cultural district. Yeah, I think Amy could, yeah.
So, we've not defined boundaries yet, but we're looking for a data counts one and state designated, recognized district that would provide us with grant funding and opportunities to improve the area. We were considering having the district stretch from the International Marathon Center through the Common in the downtown and all the way up to the HCA, but it's not formed yet, there'll be a committee to apply for that designation. Then we could get signage, we could get money for events, and get state grants.
And that's not a zoning district. That's kind of a state recognized district that can help us, like Amy said, get grants and funding for holding more events on the common and around town.
Thank you for that. The genesis of my question is that when I look at Hopkinton, 85 in some sense to me is kind of a dividing line, because a lot of things happen towards the east, but not so much focus is given to the west. And up until the downtown effort that's been going on now, you could stand on one side and it just looked like the other side was a totally different town. So, I mean, for me, having cohesiveness, say, even from, somewhere this side of 495, going towards the east, has always been something that would be beneficial. When the 495 planted area, became a realization, it was great because we had a very nice entry point into Hopkinton. And the downtown project is going to be planting trees, further along. So just unifying that area to me would be something that would be lovely.
Sure. Yes.
Is there an estimate on what the income would be to the town, maybe from a one-time cash flow, or the tax implications that we would have for selling it as an asset, center school, versus leaving it as open space?
No, we really don't have any hard dollar figures yet. But I think in our next phase, we're going to try to come up with some numbers on what the value of those properties are and what future tax revenue we could gain from a rezoning and putting commercial uses into center school. So that's yet to come, but we don't have that information now. Yes.
Dan, if I can just give thank you first of all for all the work you guys have done, committee, et cetera. Just kind of an optimistic view, if I may. 10 years ago, this building that you're sitting in didn't exist. This was a horse pasture. It was a horse pasture when I taught school next door and looked out here. And a lot of people came together and raised a lot of money on a vacant piece of land and established something that didn't cost the taxpayers a dime. It was privately raised money that brought a vision to being, that now brings 30,000 people into this town. When we're looking at possibilities, let's look at them as what can be there and not try to throw obstacles in front of them. Let's look at what the next step is in the maturity of this town. Because just like a human being, towns adapt and grow and mature. You're setting a game plan for us, and I think it's up to us to make sure we enact it.
Thank you. Yeah, there's another
Do
question.
you know the height, the hotel maximum building height or whatever? How many stories can a hotel be in the hotel zone now? There's a hotel overlay zone? Four stories.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that it's difficult to run a hotel profitably if it's 4 stories or less. Is that true?
It's pretty hard.
So we're not going to get anybody to bring a hotel into town if it's 4 stories or less.
So we've had hotel overlay zoning for about 10 years and a hotel is yet to come to town.
So is there any contemplation of modifying the hotel overlay district to try to increase the building height so that we might be able to attract courtyard?
That has not been our concentration. Our concentration has been on Center School. But in our previous discussions with people throughout town, we're not talking about a hotel, we're talking about a boutique hotel. That's 8, 10, 12 rooms. If you've been out west or upstate New York, these things survive just on leaf peeping season.
So sure, yeah, and I heard you say that. I just think, we have 30,000 people come to the town, like, on a day, one day, right? Like, there's people that come to the HCA, and there's people that, as you mentioned, so all these events going on, and, do you know what I mean? Like, it just seems, maybe it's out of the scope of your committee, so I'm not trying to push that, but that's something that I guess I would like the folks in the room to think about.
Yeah, up at the end of Elm Street there, where the hotel overlay district is, it seems like a great spot for a hotel, but that's not what, I don't want to confuse that with what we're talking about downtown with this boutique hotel.
Yeah.
And you're right, the economics for a small hotel like that wouldn't work. They're usually associated with an upscale restaurant as well to balance out the economics. And that's not a bad thing to have downtown either, is a nice restaurant down there.
Finn Perry proposed this, I don't know, 6, 8 years ago to build in the hotel overlay, and whatever it was, 9 stories, 10 stories, yeah. So it's been done.
It's been contemplated.
It's been contemplated. This was,
Meeting.
yes, the developer.
Yeah.
This is the developer who wanted to do it.
Okay.
Just to be clear, we're not talking about 9, 10 stories at Center School.
Yeah,
No, that's way overbuilt.
No, we know.
Never gonna happen.
We know.
Well,
All
that's
right.
why I laughed. I would like to say this.
Yeah, we're not going to put it on the story.
Yeah, Beth.
One thing about the Center School property, it is in a residential zone. And once you start changing properties like Center School, it's called spot zoning. And people have bought houses up on Ash Street, have maintained their houses around the common, trusting the town's zoning. They've built or added 2 houses recently, built expensive houses, and all of a sudden, the town wants to spot zone Center School. A boutique hotel, that's one thing. Staying open till midnight, lots of traffic, garbage, cars. People are complaining about an Airbnb on Pike Street. Can you imagine a boutique hotel, the traffic, the noise, the lighting? So I think that the town has trusted zoning, but once you start spot zoning, people lose faith in planning and their investment in their homes. So I think it's a dangerous policy to take a property and rezone it like Center School.
Sure, those are fair points. But remember, this isn't something that we would just jump in and rezone and sit back and hope things go our way. The big stick we have here is we own the property. If we come up with a vision that has, you know, limited commercial, low density housing, something that everybody can buy into, that could be a successful project. But if we can't get a private developer to buy into that, then we don't sell the land. We're not just going to rezone it and put it on the market. That's not how we would do that. It's not the Hopkinton way, and it wouldn't protect the town's interest or the abutter's interest. So just remember that we own that property, so we have a say in what could happen there. There was another question. Yeah, John?
One final thing, I'm going to echo Bob over there. One thing we found out on the reuse committee was there's an attachment to that building. You know, there's definitely an attachment to that building for the townspeople.
Oh, yeah.
And the people who have been here, you know, for more than 10 years, 12 years. Kids went to that school. You know, we heard stories about when I was young, we ran up and down the stairs in that school. That was our gym. So, you know, there's an attachment to that building. That's all I want to say.
Absolutely is. And I think I've already made commitments to the Historic Commission that as long as I'm here, you know, that building stays. We can make that part of this development. Just like this building got restored, 85 Main Street. You know, 85 Main Street's a beautiful building compared to Center School, but same difference. We can make it work. Yes. No, go ahead.
Look, I'm not from the East Coast, so, you know, here's the thing, feelings are good, facts are better. The reality is we have a budget deficit we're working on.
Yeah.
And also that building is not comparable to the 1880 high school or whatever it was. This building was built when the town had no money. You know, I once got a really interesting history lesson from that guy about who raised the money, how all the money came to be that even built the center school. It's so expensive to remediate. It's not that good of a building. It's just not. I know people have a lot of feelings about it, but it's just not that good of a building from an infrastructure standpoint.
We have the same arguments among our team. Yes. No question about it.
On the other hand, they just looked at the windows in that building to replace them, right? And what did they say?
They're in very good shape.
They're in very good shape. They're 100 years old. Don't replace them.
But whether it's an attractive building or not an attractive building, that's not really the point. If you stand in
it's not about attractive, it's about $2 million it's going to take to just remediate the asbestos in that building. It's about that. It's not about what it looks like on the facade. It's about how much it's going to cost us to try to sell it. Like, who's going to want to buy that? No commercial developer is going to come in and go, I'm going to give you $2 million. I got to spend $2 million just to get the asbestos out. I mean, that's the issue.
The asbestos, I think, is in the 1950s section, which is going to go anyways, no matter what happens. But I think the point is, if you stand in the center of the town common and look 360 degrees, you're going to see beautiful buildings. You know, Center School may be a little off, but when you take the picture as a whole, it's a beautiful surrounding. If you tore down that one building, it would be like having a beautiful smile with a missing tooth.
I think you keep the facade. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you keep the facade. Absolutely. Big fan of it.
I mean,
big fan. Huge fan.
Those of us who live in the center of town, which I'm one of them, we take pains to like follow the historic district guidelines of keeping your facade the same. So I can't do something like put up, you know, aluminum siding, even though I wouldn't want to, but it would be more practical. Like snow comes in my door, under the door, because it's like, how do I replace the door the right way? And I haven't figured it out. So, but that's what I committed to when I bought my house in the historic district, is keeping my house looking the same, because it's from 1820. And so if the town comes along and says, oh, we're just going to knock that school down or whatever, that would be a huge betrayal, and then it'll be all bets are off. It'll be like, well, I can do whatever the hell I want with my house. And some people are, but most people have really maintained their houses in the way that we're supposed to. And the town can't turn around and betray us.
And when we met, your house is beautiful. You put a lot of money into that house to make it look nice and restore it. And we've got to protect that. So, yes.
Brooks Farrar again. Speaking as maybe the only 30-something in here. Sorry. I'm just saying.
That was a shot.
Representing maybe the younger crowd, that's all. I get excited about searching out something like, when we're talking about a boutique hotel and a nice fancy restaurant, I'm thinking of like the Groton Inn, Forge and Vine, right behind it. Like that is a destination I drive 45 minutes to go to go have a nice dinner. And there's nothing like that here in town by any means. And that would be awesome, right? To have something right.
Yeah, that was some of the input we heard back in May. You know, a nice restaurant would be good. We don't need another pizza joint. But yeah, go ahead. There's a question back there. All right. Apparently you like pizza. Yes.
No, just as the other 30-year-old.
Could you take 2 minutes to explain to all of us the process going forward now, and with specific dates if you have them?
We don't have specific dates, but in general, the process is we're gonna take the information we got tonight. We're gonna sit down with Abacus and the rest of the permanent building committee members, and we're gonna come up with kind of a rating of those 5 options based on some of the important things we're hearing tonight, we heard in May, and we've heard from other things, and try to rate those 5 options to come up with, 1 or 2 that seem to rise to the top. We're also going to try to put some numbers to this. We're not going to. There's no way we can put hard construction numbers to these at the concept stage we are, but we can get some general ideas of this is going to be high cost. This is kind of going to be medium cost. We'll work with Town Hall to try to get an idea of the income potential of these properties as a commercial entity, because people like numbers. It helps make decisions. And then our next step is we're kind of repeat this, because fewer slides. Make a presentation to the select board so they can hear it for themselves. Because at the end of the day, it's really going to be their decision. We're working for the select board. So our next step is to kind of pull all this information together and get to the select board. And hopefully make another presentation with a recommendation at next spring town meeting.
This is a lot of information for us to work saying. Will you send the slides out and put them on the website so people can?
I think it's already been done.
Yeah, on the website.
They're on the website.
Yes. Yeah. You're right, there's a lot of information there, and it's hard to follow just reading those slides, so we felt this was important to kind of explain it.
Yeah.